Omagyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitan Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. So we've just reached chapter 2 of the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, section on Prahlad Maharaj. And the title has a lot of impact. The title of chapter 2 is Hiranyakashipu, King of the Demons. Not only a demon, but king of the demons. And I remember sometimes there's one place where Prahlad Maharaj is speaking to his father, and he refers to him as the best of the demons, Asura Varyo, the best of the demons. Welcome, Sadhvi, tuning in from Sweden. So, in the previous chapter, we well, there was a whole sequence, right? There was a whole sequence to the before, in the unfolding of this Leela. But where we reached, Narada Muni, he was telling about the history of Jai and Vijay, these two guards of Vaikuntha, and how they were cursed to take birth as demons. And he mentioned the different births that they took, right? And so Narada Muni's telling all of this in the assembly of Yudhisthira Maharaj. And then Yudhisthira Maharaj, he inquires, he wants to know more about the history between Prahlad and Hiranyakashipu. And so that was the question at the end of the first chapter. So now we've come to chapter 2. And first there's a summary, so we can read this summary from Srila Swami Maharaj. As described in this chapter, after the annihilation of Hiranyaksha, so these Jai and Vijay, right? They had 3 different births as demons, and one of those births was as Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, right? They're brothers. So, as described in this chapter, after the annihilation of Hiranyaksha's sons and his brother Hiranyakashipu, after the annihilation of Hiranyaksha, Hiranyaksha's sons and his brother Hiranyakashipu were very much aggrieved. So they want revenge, right? Ultimately. Hiranyakashipu reacted very sinfully by trying to diminish the religious activities of people in general. However, he instructed his nephews about a history just to diminish their aggrievement. When the Supreme Personality of Godhead appeared as the boar, that's Varaha Dev, right? Varaha avatar, and killed Hiranyakashipu's brother Hiranyaksha, Hiranyakashipu was very much aggrieved. In anger, he accused the Supreme Personality of Godhead of being partial to his devotees and derided the Lord's appearance as Varaha to kill his brother. He began to agitate all the demons and Rakshasas and disturb the ritualistic ceremonies of the peaceful sages and other inhabitants of earth. For want of the performance of yajna, sacrifice, the demigods began wandering unseen on earth. So Hiranyakashipu is so angry right after the Lord killed his brother. And so he's moving around all the planetary systems, causing trouble. After finishing the ritualistic funeral ceremonies of his brother, Hiranyakashipu began speaking to his nephews, quoting from the Shastras about the truth of life. To pacify them, he spoke as follows: "My dear nephews, for heroes to die before the enemy is glorious, according to their different fruitive activities. Living entities come together within this material world and are again separated by the laws of nature. We should always know, however, that the spirit soul, which is different from the body, is eternal, inadjustable, pure, all-pervading, and aware of everything. When bound by the material energy, the soul takes birth in higher or lower species of life, according to varying association, and in this way receives various types of bodies in which to suffer or enjoy. One's affliction by the conditions of material existence is the cause of happiness and distress. There are no other causes, and one should not be aggrieved upon seeing the superficial actions of karma. Hiranyakashipu then related a historical incident concerning a king Suyagya who resided in a country named Ushinada. When the king was killed, his queens, overwhelmed with grief, received instructions, which Hiranyakashipu quoted to his nephews. Hiranyakashipu related an account of a kulinga bird pierced by the arrow of a hunter while lamenting for his wife, who had also been shot by the same hunter. By narrating these stories, Hiranyakashipu pacified his nephews and other relatives and relieved them of lamentation. Thus, having been pacified, Diti and Rushabanu, Hiranyakashipu's mother and sister-in-law, engaged their minds in spiritual understanding. So it's actually quite interesting. We see sometimes that the asuras, although they're born in a lower species, and although we may see that sometimes they're engaged in nefarious activities, they may also be very learned in the scripture, and spiritual knowledge. And so this is one example. Hiranyakashipu is speaking Atma Tattva Gyan, right? Knowledge of the soul. He's speaking truth to his relatives to help them in their grieving process. And another example that comes to mind is when Ravana is King Ravan is like on his deathbed, right? He's been shot by King Ram, Lord Ram, and he's about to die. But it's interesting, Ramachandra actually sends Lakshman to take instruction, right, from Ravana, because Ravana is very learned in the Rajaniti, it's called, right? Like government and politics and all these things. And so Ramachandra sends Lakshman to go and learn something from him. And we hear Lakshman, he went. Oh, Nazar, I'll make you a co-host. Oh yeah, and Rishabhanavi's here as well, although quiet today. Right, so Lakshman goes to and asks Ravana for some instructions, but Ravana is silent. He doesn't say anything. And so Lakshman goes back to Ramachandra. Oh, he wouldn't tell me anything. And Ramachandra asks him, well, where were you standing? Well, I went and stood by his head. And Ramachandra says, no, you have to stand at his feet, if you're going to ask for advice, So it's an interesting thing, right? It's like a lack of bias. Like if someone has some knowledge, then we will honor them and hear that, receive that knowledge from them, whatever their background is or whatever their activities are, but with an open mind, right? So here also, the Srimad Bhagavatam is depicting a nuanced view, you could say, in a sense, of Hiranyakashipu. He's quite learned in the Shastra, although he's demonic by nature. So we can appreciate that. And Srila Maharaj, I was surprised in one place he actually mentioned that the asuras, they may be, learned and educated, they may follow moral codes, but the main point about them is that they are averse to Vishnu. They don't accept the position of Vishnu. They are against Lord Vishnu. But otherwise, they besides that, they may be moral persons and they may be learned. But that crucial point is there, that they are against Lord Vishnu. So I was surprised when I heard that, because we tend to have this kind of more, black and white, gross picture of what the demons are like, right? But it is not like that. It's not so straightforward. Okay, so we can begin. And Suvasan, did you want to add anything to that? Or?
No, actually, I just also will be, thinking about. Sorry, was thinking about when you sing the songs, or like about Krishna. This the names of the demons. Like if you're nourishing a prayers, right? You will be this his name. Krishna's name is also associated with Madhusudana, like, he's the killer of Madhu,
Right, right.
right?
The Madhu demon. Yeah, there were a few names like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah. So his name is all, when you sing the praise of Narsingadev, also Hiranyakashipu, what is it?
Mm.
Rakshaha. So that's names of the demons also. We are,
Yeah, that's a very good point, actually.
yes.
They're being honored in some way, like the Lord's named after them in a sense. That is quite funny.
Yes, yes, interesting.
They're also part of the Lord's Leela, right?
Yeah, I mean, in this case, definitely they are, right? In this
Right, in
Jai
this
and
case,
Vijay.
definitely. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they have come, I mean, they're Vaikuntha gatekeepers, so they're
Mhm.
definitely in a, higher position.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
just in playing the part for the Lord's Leela.
Mhm. Mhm. And welcome Somya Sham and Vijay who joined us. Okay. Do you want to start then, Didi? Lead us in the Sanskrit.
Okay, sure, yes. So, Sri Narada Uvacha Bhrataryevam Vinihate Harina Kroda Murtina Hiranyakashipu Rajan Paryatapyat Rusha Susha.
Sri Narada Muni said, My dear King Yudhishthir, when Lord Vishnu, in the form of Varaha, the boar, killed Hiranyaksha, Hiranyaksha's brother, Hiranyakashipu, was extremely angry and began to lament. Purport: Yudhishthir had inquired from Narada Muni why Hiranyakashipu was so envious of his own son Prahlad. Narada Muni began narrating the story by explaining how Hiranyakashipu had become a staunch enemy of Lord Vishnu.
आहचेदं वृषा पूर्णः सन्दष्टदशनच्छदः कोपज्वलभ्यां चक्षुर्भ्यां निरीक्षन् धूम्रम् अम्बरम्.
Filled with rage and biting his lips, Hiranyakashipu gazed at the sky with eyes that blazed in anger, making the whole sky smoky. Thus he began to speak, painting a very vivid picture. Purport: As usual, the demon is envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and inimical toward him. These were Hiranyakashipu's external bodily features as he considered how to kill Lord Vishnu and devastate his kingdom, Vaikuntha-loka.
करालदंष्ट्रोग्रदृष्ट्या दुष्प्रेक्ष्य भ्रुकुटीमुखः शूलं बुद्ध्यम्य सदसि दानवानिदम् अब्रवीत्.
Exhibiting his terrible teeth, fierce glance, and frowning eyebrows, terrible to see, he took up his weapon, a trident, and thus began speaking to his associates, the assembled demons.
भो भो दानवदैत्येय द्विमूर्धं स्त्र्यक्षसम्भर शतबाहो हयग्रीव नमुचे पाक इल्वल विप्रचित्ते मम वचः पुलोमं सकुनादयः शृणुतानन्तरं सर्वे क्रियताम् आशुमा चिरम्.
O Danavas and Daityas. So these are all different races, right? O Danavas and Daityas, O Dvimurda, Triyaksha, Shambara, and Shatabahu. Okay, but these sound like specific persons now. O Hayagriva, Namuchi, Paka, and Ilvala. O Viprachitti, Puloman, Shakuna, and other demons. All of you kindly hear me attentively, and then act according to my words without delay.
सपत्नेर्घातितः क्षुद्रैर्भ्राता मे दयितः सुहृत् पार्ष्णिग्राहेण हरिणा समेनाप्युपधान धावनैः.
My insignificant enemies, the demigods, have combined to kill my very dear and obedient well-wisher, my brother Hiranyaksha. And we can add here, right? Hiranyaksha, he like tried to drag the Earth planet right down to the bottom of the whole of the Brahmanda, right? And have it drown what waters are those called, Didi? The waters at the bottom of the universe?
No.
Yeah, and that Shibani. Yeah, I don't know if I don't remember hearing that name.
Yeah.
But we hear the bottom of the whole universal system in one Brahmanda. It's full of water, which is the Lord's perspiration, right? I think it's mentioned, right? And so this Hiranyaksha, he tried to like submerge the whole Earth planet in these waters, and just destroy everything. So that was why the Lord had to kill him. But Hiranyakashipu's forgetting that little detail here. My very dear and obedient well-wisher, my brother Hiranyaksha. Although the Supreme Lord Vishnu is always equal to both of us, namely the demigods and the demons, this time being devoutly worshipped by the demigods, he has taken their side and helped them kill Hiranyaksha. Purport, as stated in Bhagavad Gita 9:29, Samoham Sarvabhuteshu. The Lord is equal to all living entities. Since the demigods and demons are both living entities, how is it possible that the Lord was partial to one class of living beings and opposed to another? Actually, it is not possible for the Lord to be partial. Nonetheless, since the demigods, the devotees, always strictly follow the Supreme Lord's orders, because of sincerity, they are victorious over the demons who know that the Supreme Lord is Vishnu, but do not follow his instructions. Because of constantly remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu, the demons generally attain Sayuja Mukti after death. The demon Hiranyakashipu accused the Lord of being partial because the demigods worshipped him. But in fact, the Lord, like the government, is not partial at all. The government is not partial to any citizen, but if a citizen is law-abiding, he receives abundant opportunities from the state laws to live peacefully and fulfill his real interests. And now in Hungary, there's a new government, and everyone's hopeful that it will be like this. Didi, do you remember what was the story with Hiranyaksha? Why did he try to bring the Earth planet down? Do you remember the backstory to that?
Sorry, I don't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember. Or if anyone else remembers, maybe Vijay can remember. Anyone here remember? I can't remember. But obviously it wasn't for any good reason. What did you say, Peru? No. No, huh? No, yeah. Yeah, it's a pretty obscure detail. Okay, no problem. Okay, we'll continue.
तस्य त्यक्त स्वभावस्य घृणेर्मायावनौकसः भजन्तं भजमानस्य बालस्येवास्तिरात्मनः मच्चूलभिन्नग्रीवस्य भूरिणा रुधिरेण वै अश्रुप्रियं तर्पयिष्ये प्रातरं मे गतव्यतः.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead has given up, so this is Hiranyakashipu, right, accusing Lord Vishnu of partiality. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has given up his natural tendency of equality toward the demons and demigods. I was wondering, do they actually say the Supreme Personality of God? But he just says he here, Tasya. And I wonder maybe they refer to him as Vishnu, huh? Hari.
He said in the previous verse, what he
Yeah,
said?
Harina. I guess that means Hari. Is that a
Okay.
grammatical form of Hari?
Okay.
I think like that, yeah. Okay. Well, they don't call him the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's given up his natural tendency of equality. Although he is the Supreme Person, where does it say that in the Sanskrit? Tyakta Svabhasya means like he's given up his natural, his natural position, right? He's given up his natural swabhav, his nature. He's given up his nature and he's influenced by Maya. He has assumed the form of a boar to please his devotees, the demigods, just as a restless child leans toward someone. I shall therefore sever Lord Vishnu's head from his trunk by my trident, and with the profuse blood from his body, I shall please my brother Hiranyaksha, who was so fond of sucking blood. Thus shall I too be peaceful. Purport. The defect of the demoniac mentality is expressed in this verse very clearly. Hiranyakashipu thought that Vishnu also becomes partial, like a child whose mind is not steady or resolute. The Lord can change his mind at any time, Hiranyakashipu thought, and therefore his words and activities are like those of children. Actually, because the demons are ordinary human beings, their minds change, and being materially conditioned, they think that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is conditioned also. As the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 9:11, Avajananti mamuda manushim tanum ashritam. Fools deride me when I descend in a human form. Demons always think that Vishnu can be killed. Therefore, being absorbed in thoughts of Vishnu's form to kill him, at least they have the opportunity to think of Vishnu unfavorably. Although they are not devotees, their thinking of Vishnu is effective, and thus they generally attain Sayujya Mukti. And this is a point that was discussed quite extensively earlier, right? That the power of remembering the Lord is so great that one can achieve liberation even if they're remembering him in a negative way, right? So they can achieve this specific type of liberation, Sayujya Mukti, of merging into the Lord's body, right? Because the demons consider the Supreme Lord an ordinary living being, they think that they can kill Lord Vishnu as one might kill an ordinary person. Another fact disclosed herein is that demons are very much fond of sucking blood. Sometimes Srila Prabhupada's very funny. Indeed, all of them are meat eaters and bloodsuckers. Hiranyakashipu accused the Supreme Lord of having a restless mind like that of a small child who can be induced to do anything if simply offered some cakes and ladus. Indirectly, this indicates the true position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who says in Bhagavad Gita, Patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhaktya prayachati tadaham bhakti pahitam ashnami prayatatmana. That's very funny. If one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, fruit, or water, I will accept it. So Srila Prabhupada saying, but actually it's true. If you offer the Lord something with affection, he will happily accept that. So Haranyakashipu is like insulting the Lord, like he's like a child, you give some sweet and he will do, whatever you say. But Swami Maharaj is saying, in a way, this is actually true because the Lord is attracted by devotion. The Lord accepts the offerings of devotees because of their transcendental love. Because they are in love with the Supreme Lord, they do not eat anything without offering it first to the Lord. The Lord does not hanker for a small leaf or flower. He has enough to eat. Indeed, he is feeding all living entities. Nonetheless, because he is very merciful and is Bhakta Vatsala, very favorable to the devotees, he certainly eats whatever they offer him with love and devotion. This quality should not be misjudged to be childish. The highest quality of the Supreme Lord is that he is Bhakta Vatsala. In other words, he is always extremely pleased with his devotees. As for the word Maya, when used in reference to the dealings of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his devotees, this word means affection. The actions of the Lord to favor his devotees are not disqualifications, but signs of his natural affection. As for Rudira, or the blood of Lord Vishnu, since there is no possibility of severing Lord Vishnu's head from his body, there is no question of blood. But the garland that decorates Vishnu's body is as red as blood. When the demons achieve Sayuja Mukti and leave behind their sinful activities, they are blessed by Vishnu's garland, which is red like blood. After attaining Sayuja Mukti, the demons are sometimes promoted to the Vaikuntha world, where they receive the reward of the Lord's garland prasad. Okay, verse 9.
तस्मिन् कूटे हिते नष्टे कृत मूले वनस्पतौ विठपा इव शुष्यन्ति विष्णुप्राणा दिवौकसः.
When the root of a tree is cut and the tree falls down, its branches and twigs automatically dry up. Similarly, when I have killed this diplomatic Vishnu, the demigods for whom Lord Vishnu is the life and soul will lose the source of their life and wither away. So he's thought this through. Purport: the difference between the demigods and the demons is here explained. The demigods always follow the instructions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whereas the demons simply plan to disturb or kill him. Nevertheless, sometimes the demons very much appreciate the full dependence of the demigods upon the mercy of the Lord. This is indirect glorification of the demigods by the demons, right? He's saying that the demigods are fully dependent on Lord Vishnu, which is actually a compliment.
तावद्याथ भुवं यूयं ब्रह्मक्षत्रसमेधितां सूदयध्वं तपो यज्ञ स्वाध्यायव्रतदानिनः.
While I am engaged in the business of killing Lord Vishnu, Tavad, yeah. Yeah, he a lot of the time he just says him, which is a little rude. He doesn't say his name. It's like, while I'm killing him, that guy. It doesn't say. The translation is more polite. While I'm engaged in the business of killing Lord Vishnu, go down to the planet Earth, which is flourishing due to Brahminical culture and a Kshatriya government. These people engage in austerity, sacrifice, Vedic study, regulative vows, and charity. Destroy all the people thus engaged. So all these people doing all these wonderful things and running their society in such a nice way, just destroy it all. Destroy it all. Purport. Hiranyakashipu's main purpose was to disturb the demigods. He planned first to kill Lord Vishnu, so that with Lord Vishnu's death, the demigods would automatically weaken and die. Another of his plans was to disturb the residents of the planet Earth. The peace and prosperity of the residents of Earth and all the other planets were maintained by the Brahmins and Kshatriyas. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 4:13, Chatur Varnyam Maya Shishtam Guna Karma Vibhagashaha. According to the three modes of material nature and the work ascribed to them, the four divisions of human society were created by me. On all the planets, there are different types of residents, but the Lord recommends, referring especially to the planet Earth, which is inhabited by human beings, that society be divided into four varnas, Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. Before the advent of Lord Krishna on this earth, it is understood that the earth was managed by the Brahmins and Kshatriyas. The duty of the Brahmins is to cultivate shama, peacefulness, dhamma, self-control, titiksha, tolerance, satyam, truthfulness, shocham, cleanliness, and arjavam, simplicity. And then to advise the Kshatriya kings how to rule the country or planet. Following the instructions of the Brahmanas, the Kshatriyas should engage the populace in austerity, sacrifices, Vedic study, and adherence to the rules and regulations established by Vedic principles. They should also arrange for charity to be given to the Brahmins, sannyasis, and temples. This is the godly arrangement of Brahminical culture. People are inclined to offer yajna because unless sacrifices are offered, there will be insufficient rain, which will hamper agricultural activities. By introducing Brahminical culture, therefore, a Kshatriya government should engage people in performing yajna, studying the Vedas, and giving charity. Thus, the people will receive their necessities for life very easily, and there will be no disturbances in society. In this regard, Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, in charge of the various necessities of life, the demigods, being satisfied by the performance of yajna, supply all necessities to man, but he who enjoys these gifts without offering them to the demigods in return is certainly a thief. The demigods are authorized supplying agents who act on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, they must be satisfied by the performance of prescribed yajnas, sacrifices. In the Vedas, there are different kinds of yajnas prescribed for different kinds of demigods, but all are ultimately offered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For one who cannot understand what the Personality of Godhead is, sacrifice to the demigods is recommended. According to the different material qualities of the persons concerned, different types of yajnas are recommended in the Vedas. Worship of different demigods is also on the same basis, namely according to different qualities. For example, the meat eaters are recommended to worship the goddess Kali, the ghastly form of material nature. And before the goddess, the sacrifice of animals is recommended. But for those in the mode of goodness, the transcendental worship of Vishnu is recommended. Ultimately, all yagyas are meant for gradual promotion to the transcendental position. For ordinary men, at least 5 yagyas, known as Pancha Mahayagya, are necessary. One should know, however, that all the necessities of life that human society requires are supplied by the demigod agents of the Lord. No one can manufacture anything. Consider, for example, all the eatables of human society. These eatables include grains, fruits, vegetables, milk, and sugar for persons in the mode of goodness, and also eatables for the non-vegetarians, such as meats, none of which can be manufactured by men. Then again, take, for example, heat, light, water, and air, which are also necessities of life. None of them can be manufactured by human society. Without the Supreme Lord, there can be no profuse sunlight, moonlight, rainfall, or breeze, without which no one can live. Obviously, our life is dependent on supplies from the Lord. Even for our manufacturing enterprises, we require so many raw materials like metal, sulfur, mercury, manganese, and so many essentials, all of which are supplied by the agents of the Lord, with the purpose that we should make proper use of them to keep ourselves fit and healthy for the purpose of self-realization, leading to the ultimate goal of life, namely liberation from the material struggle for existence. This aim of life is attained by performance of yagyas. If we forget the purpose of human life and simply take supplies from the agents of the Lord for sense gratification and become more and more entangled in material existence, which is not the purpose of creation, certainly we become thieves, and therefore we are punished by the laws of material nature. A society of thieves can never be happy, for they have no aim in life. The gross materialist thieves have no ultimate goal of life. They are simply directed to sense gratification, nor do they have knowledge of how to perform yagyas. Lord Chaitanya, however, inaugurated the easiest performance of yagya, namely the Sankirtan yagya, which can be performed by anyone in the world who accepts the principles of Krishna consciousness. Hiranyakashipu planned to kill the inhabitants of earth so that the yagya would stop, and the demigods, being disturbed, would die automatically when Lord Vishnu, the Yagyeshwar, was killed. These were the demoniac plans of Hiranyakashipu, who was expert in such activities. Welcome to Ananta Shesh, Prabhu. So Srila Swami Maharaj Prabhupada is just like broken down, quite nicely. This whole Varnashrama system, which, was the system of ancient India, that, there's this awareness, right, that we can't do it alone, basically, right? And there are all of these beings who are empowered by the Lord to enable this wonderful creation with all of its wonderful aspects, right? Of the sun, the moon, the rain, the earth, and vegetables, and all these things, right? And so for those who aren't ready for, Sarvadharmam Prityaja, fully surrender to me and give up everything else, right? I'm the center, come to me with a relationship of love, right? This is Krishna's final instruction in Gita. For those who aren't quite ready for that, Krishna has this other system where, persons are honoring specific devatas, who are managing, who are overseeing all these different aspects of the creation. And so it's a way of giving respect, right? Like you respect your mother who's given you life, so you respect Surya Dev, the sun god who gives sunlight, Indra Dev who's supplying rain, which is enabling the growth of the crops, and so on. So it's a way of living in harmony and honoring your environment. And it also means that one will automatically live a life that is, it's not just based on random, fulfillment of random desires or selfish desires, right? It's an orderly and structured way to live in harmony, and respect. So this is the Varnashrama system. But of course, if one is ready to embrace what is the source of all of that, one is ready to embrace the aspiration of wholehearted surrender, then they are excused from this kind of elaborate system, right? And I think for ourselves, we're just on the mercy boat. Well, except for, Suvasini Didi and Vijay Prabhu. This is their culture. They can do both, actually. But most of us, at least, we're on the mercy boat. We're just trying our best. Okay, well, we still have a few more minutes. Should we continue?
Okay. Vishnu Dvijakriya Mulo Yajno Dharmamaya Puman Devashi Pitrabhutanam Dharmasya Cha Parayanam.
The basic principle of Brahminical culture is to satisfy Lord Vishnu, the personification of sacrificial and ritualistic ceremonies. Lord Vishnu is the personified reservoir of all religious principles, and he is the shelter of all the demigods, the great Pittas, and the people in general. When the Brahmins are killed, no one will exist to encourage the Kshatriyas to perform yagyas, and thus the demigods, not being appeased by yagya, will automatically die. So this is the master plan. Okay, we have another purport. Since Vishnu is the central point of Brahminical culture, Hiranyakashipu's plan was to kill Vishnu, for if Vishnu were killed, naturally the Brahminical culture would also be lost. With Brahminical culture lost, yagya would no longer be performed, and for want of yagya, the regular distribution of rainfall would cease. Thus there would be disturbances all over the world, and naturally the demigods would be defeated. From this verse, we get a clear indication of how human society is disturbed when the Vedic Aryan civilization is killed and the Vedic ritualistic ceremonies performed by the Brahmins are stopped. Kalo Shudra Sambhavaha. Because the population of the modern world consists mostly of Shudras, the Brahminical culture is now lost and is extremely difficult to reestablish in a proper way. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya has recommended the chanting of the holy name of the Lord, which will revive Brahminical culture very easily. Hadir Nama, Hadir Nama, Hadir Nama Eva Kevalam, Kalo Nastyeva, Nastyeva, Nastyeva Gatir, Anyata. Everyone knows this verse, right? The holy name, the holy name, the holy name. The only way. There's no other way. There's no other way in this age of Kali. I think maybe I will jump ahead. Actually, it was something that Srila Prabhupada, he wanted to do, right? He spoke about quite extensively. He wanted to reestablish the Varnashrama system in this world. And so you do see that he emphasizes that quite a lot in his writings. Okay, I'm going to jump ahead to verse 12.
यत्र यत्र द्विजाघावो वेदावर्णाश्रमक्रियाः तं तं जनपथं यात सन्दीपयत वृश्चथ वृश्चथ. Okay.
Immediately go wherever there is good protection for the cows and Brahmins, and wherever the Vedas are studied in terms of the Varnashrama principles. Set fire to those places and cut from the roots the trees there, which are the source of life. My goodness.
So,
Purport. The picture, let's see, oh, it's not so long. The picture of a proper human civilization is indirectly described here. In a perfect human civilization, there must be a class of men fully trained as perfect brahmanas. Similarly, there must be kshatriyas to rule the country very nicely according to the injunctions of the Shastras, and there must be vaishyas who can protect the cows. The word gava indicates that cows should be given protection. Because the Vedic civilization is lost, cows are not protected, but instead indiscriminately killed in slaughterhouses. Therefore, this is a demonic civilization. Another point is that trees also should be given protection. And that was something that we saw with Srila Govinda Maharaj, that he was very strict about that. He would never cut a tree, and to the point where he would build around trees. And we saw that in the Prashadam hall, right, in Navadvip. There's like 3 or 4, I think 4, maybe 4 or 5 long coconut trees, right? And he built around them, which is, makes the work a lot more difficult. But he was very strict. He would never cut a tree. They're very conscious beings, actually, that is mentioned in the scriptures. During its lifetime, a tree should not be cut for industrial enterprises. Okay, we'll jump to verse 13.
इति ते भर्तृनिर्देशम् आधाय शिरसा धृताः तथा प्रजानां कथनं विदधु कथनप्रियाः.
Thus the demons, being fond of disastrous activities, took Hiranyakashipu's instructions on their heads with great respect and offered him obeisances. According to his directions, they engaged in envious activities directed against all living beings. Okay, we can go to 14.
पुरग्रामव्रजोद्यान क्षेत्रारामाश्रमाखरान् खेटखर्वट घोषांश्च ददहु पतनानि च.
Some of these Sanskrit compounds are so long and complex, that Suvasini is very expert.
Oh, just trying.
The demons set fire to the cities, villages, pasturing grounds, cow pens, gardens, agricultural fields, and natural forests. They burned the hermitages of the saintly persons, the important mines that produced valuable metals, the residential quarters of the agriculturalists or farmers, the mountain villages, and the villages of the cow protectors, the cowherd men. They also burned the government capitals. Wow. Sounds like World War III. Very, very heavy. Okay, we'll go to 15.
केचित् खनित्रैर्बिभिधु सेतु प्राकार गोपुरान् आजीव्यां चिच्छिधुर्वृक्षान् केचित् परशु पाणयः प्रादहन् शरणान्येके प्रजानां ज्वलितोल्मुखैः.
Some of the demons took digging instruments and broke down the bridges, the protective walls, and the gates of the cities. Some took axes and began cutting the important trees that produced mango, jackfruit, and other sources of food. Some of the demons took firebrands and set fire to the residential quarters of the citizens. Yeah. I was in Bournemouth, a few days ago visiting some of my family there. And one day we visited this island nearby, and it's an interesting place. It's a beautiful place. And it was a place where the British Army, they set up a fort during the Second World War. And they used it, I don't know if it, I don't, maybe it was used in the war, but in the beginning they used it like as a practice grounds. But no, then there must have been a real war there. But one of the things, it's like a very specific terrain. I think they were using that because it was similar to the area of Normandy in France, where there was going to be a battle or something. But one point just shocked me, that there was some like historical descriptions of the battle, and of one battle that took place. And one thing was so shocking, that the soldiers did. I think this was the British soldiers. They would pump gasoline, no, kerosene and gas into the ocean and then set it on fire. Like that was one tactic that they used. And I was just so shocked, like how like specific people can be in their, like in their, how specific humans can be in their what can we say, nasty nasty behavior, like we're hearing here, like they're digging, breaking down bridges, like going to so much trouble, like to destroy the environment. It's a very, very sad thing. So, you know, human beings, they can also behave like this. I thought, my goodness, they're destroying the ocean, which gives us so much, for the sake of fighting this war. Very, very sad. Of course, that's just one thing. There's unlimited examples of human cruelty and demonic cruelty, as we're hearing here. So this stuff is real, right? It's not just what we're hearing about the demons did. Like, this stuff happens. I'll read this purport. The cutting of trees is generally prohibited. In particular, trees that produce nice fruit for the maintenance of human society should not be cut. In different countries, there are different types of fruit trees. In India, the mango and jackfruit trees are prominent. And in other places, there are mango trees, jackfruit trees, coconut trees, and berry trees. We have a mulberry tree we just discovered in the garden here. Any tree that produces nice fruit for the maintenance of the people should not be cut at all. This is a shastric injunction. Okay, maybe one more verse.
Okay. Yevam viprakrite loke daityendranusharayir muhuhu divam deva parityajya bhuvi cherur alakshitaha.
Thus disturbed again and again by the unnatural occurrences caused by the followers of Hiranyakashipu, all the people had to cease the activities of Vedic culture. Not receiving the results of yajna, the demigods also became disturbed. They left their residential quarters in the heavenly planets, and unobserved by the demons, began wandering on the planet Earth to see the disasters. Purport, as stated in Bhagavad Gita, the performance of yajna brings reciprocal good fortune for both the human beings and the demigods. When the performances of yajna were stopped by the disturbances of the demons, The demigods were naturally bereft of the results of yajna and hampered in executing their respective duties. Therefore, they came down to the planet Earth to see how people had become disturbed and to consider what to do. Okay, I think that's a good place to stop. So we can end there for today. Well, yeah, I mean, it's a, sometimes it can be a difficult truth to digest, that there are bad people, and they do bad things, and, because sometimes, like when you see someone doing something very bad, or sometimes you experience it yourself, you can start to go a little crazy, like trying to understand, like, why, But the fact is, we just have to accept that some persons are conditioned in this way, and not everyone's ready for a counseling session, right? And so, I mean, that's just what I'm reflecting on now after hearing this. Like, there are bad people who do bad things, and we have to learn how to protect ourselves and protect others, right? And we can't be surprised, right? I think that's what I want to say. Like, we can't be surprised, right? This has been going on since the beginning of time. We're living in this world, right, of untruth. So we can't be surprised, actually, that these things go on. We have to protect ourselves, and also we have to always be hopeful that the Lord's grace is there, the Lord's devotees are always there, and we can try to find a channel to connect with that. And then there's always this constant kind of interplay, right, between the forces of good and evil, right? And sometimes the force of good will be more dominant, but sometimes the force of evil will be more dominant, right? And so there's that Gita verse, right? Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhutanam adharmasya tadatmanam shajami, right? Krishna is mentioning this in Gita, right? That sometimes, the adharma, unrighteousness, irreligion, that takes the upper hand. Right? But then he says, but then when it gets really bad, when things are really out of whack, then I will come. I will come and set things right. So there's always this constant back and forth, right, between right and wrong and good and bad. And so it is simply the nature of things, right?
Mm.
We have to, but it takes some maturity actually to accept that and live with that, right?
There's something in the chat, Vishaka,
Oh,
Vishabhanavi.
okay.
I think it talked about Hiranyaksha.
In searching through Google, looks like Hiranyaksha was born immensely strong, then further emboldened by a similar Brahma boon as his brother attacked Bhumi due to hubris. So it was just out of arrogance, I guess. It sounds like it wasn't for any good reason. Yeah. Well, it was a good reason for him, obviously. All right. Well, any last comments from anyone before we close for today? Mhm. Special thanks to Suvasini Didi for helping us with this meeting.
Oh,
So nice to have your presence with the TV, and thanks to all of you. I'm so happy that we're doing this together. And special thanks to our Hungarian Bhakta Rinda here today.
and many thanks to you to do this Bhagavatam classes.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh, well, it was your
very
inspiration.
grateful. Grateful for that.
I'm grateful too. Grateful to by your inspiration. All right. So I guess we'll stop there for today. Jai Shri Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. Shri Bhakti Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. Shri A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada ki Jai. The assembled devotees, sincere seekers ki Jai. Shri Suvasini Didi ki Jai. Kanapriya Didi ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande. Haribo.
Shaka Devi ki jai.
Hi Gurudev.
Jai.
See you all next time.
Thank you. Thank you, Dandavats. Thank you.